let's take a look at some charts on Ripple from this week's article on Brave New Coin. So right out of the gate, I am bearish on Ripple fundamentally, existing as a network. I'm bearish on the technicals, which you'll see in a minute. The question really becomes, does Ripple need a token? Who's got the tokens? And when and why are they selling? So if we look at what's in circulation, what Ripple the company has, and what is left to be sold, it's obviously a bit troubling that there's more to be sold over time than actually currently exists when you look at what's happening with price and interest and use and all those metrics. Ripple touts partnerships upon partnerships with anyone and everybody in the payment space globally in hopes that that'll generate press and headlines for them. You know, I would love to see user stories of people interacting with Ripple. There seem to be a lot of interbank settlement networks, mobile payment networks that are using Ripple the company's products in the background and don't necessarily use the actual token, XRP, Ripple the token. So just tons of brand confusion on there, tons of issues with is this a security and legally in the US, what's going on with that? That still hasn't been resolved. So it's just really hard to take Ripple seriously on any level and to hold it long term. If we look at transactions per day and fees are obviously really low. They're the lowest among any network that has fees other than Stellar, which is a very similar network to Ripple. The transactions per day have ranged between 500,000 and 1 million since 2016. They haven't really broke 1 million for a considerable amount of time. I don't know what, actually I do know what this was. This was a spam attack on the network, so this wasn't organic activity. You can see that it started here and ended here. So anything in between was kind of null and void from a organic activity perspective. So there's certainly transactions happening here and there are fees being collected, but I don't really know who's using them and why. You know, I don't know the user story behind Ripple other than the bots on Twitter who think it's amazing. So in a vacuum, certainly to see transactions per day at the higher end of historic levels is bullish. To see it flat over the 6-month period, not so bullish. It's not falling, obviously, so we're not there yet, but you know, you don't know what's going on here unless you really look as far as who's sending these transactions. Is Ripple just doing this to Ripple the company? Just keeping these transactions elevated? You know, I don't know what's going on here. You really have to look into that on the ledger side. If we look at active addresses in the line here and average transaction values in the fill, the active addresses tell a bearish story since 2018. You know, you can see you had the speculative bubble in 2018 and everything came back down to earth. And you had some speculation in June, July. Again, active addresses rose. This was spam attack. I don't actually know what this more recent spike in active addresses was, but it came right back down to the previous level. In general, active addresses have done next to nothing over the past 2 years, so you don't want to see that if you are trying to grow a network. To me, it just says no one's using this token. You know, we can look at this 1 million number and think, wow, transactions per day is really elevated on this network compared to everybody else. But then when you look at active addresses, there's nothing there. It's a flat line. It's really hard to know what to take seriously here with these metrics for on-chain stuff. Average transaction values have basically held flat and ranging over the same time period, so nothing exciting there. This is NVT, which in a vacuum looks amazing because it is declining over the past 5 years, which is what you want to see. So NVT is an inverse metric of economic utility. So if NVT is declining, that leads you to believe that on-chain activity is increasing over time. It's still higher than most networks in the 200 range. You can't really compare Ripple NVT to Bitcoin NVT, for example. But in general, it's a good sanity test for what's going on here with this metric. So you either say NVT is useless for an XRP, or you say, all right, NVT looks good. It's declining over time. It's almost at an all-time low, basically at all-time lows. This just says, based on the on-chain utility or on-chain activity, the market cap is undervalued. So saying that, you have to take the on-chain metrics seriously, which I don't know if I do. This is Google Trends, and very bearish, similar to Stellar in that you had the speculative bubble pop. You know, what is Ripple? Where can I buy Ripple? You had that CNBC famously buying Ripple at the top. All that stuff is baked into this. And then over time, the question is, does the value of the token hold? Does the interest hold? And really, there hasn't been anywhere near the amount of search interest on Google for Ripple since that time period. And if we zoom in, you know, it's breaking 2-year lows basically as far as Google search and interest. So not something you want to see if you want new people onto the network. All in all, fundamentals bearish. Any way I could try to look at them with non-biased glasses. If we look at technicals here, we have Bitfinex long shorts. This is the Bitstamp chart, which is why the volume is the way it is. I'll get to that in a second. 50, 200 EMAs, yearly pivots, VPVR, and RSI for momentum. Nothing really to speak of here. We're not getting lower lows with higher lows in RSI, so there's no bullish momentum or bullish divergence here. Bitfinex long shorts are basically flat since March. Nothing too exciting there. Really, the exciting thing to talk about here is the volume. So any other exchange than Bitstamp, I'd say this might be fake volume because it looks so ridiculous, right? This is, I don't know what the notional value of this is, but it's a lot, especially compared to historically. To see volumes pick up like this day over day over day over day definitely gets anybody's attention. My current speculation is that Jed McCaleb is actually selling his Ripple settlement XRP on Bitstamp, and that's what you're seeing here. That'd be my guess. And the reason it's important on Bitstamp is because I don't think they fake any volume, unlike most other exchanges. So it's definitely real, and it's kind of crazy. This also has created this VPVR profile, this volume profile, where most of the volume since 2017 has been at this level. It was already sort of concentrated here because of this triangle before the breakout bubble. And you had a lot of volume kind of at this 0.25 level, but now you've got all this volume at 0.18. So whoever's selling here, you can even see they stopped selling after it dropped below 0.2 or whatever it was, right? The volume went down by like 2/3. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if this tries to get back up to 2.2 or something, if that volume comes back. My guess is it does. So I think XRP is just doomed in perpetuity at this point. It's below the volume profile. The volume is insane. Jed's got a ton of XRP left to sell, millions of XRP left to sell. The 50 and 200 EMAs are bearish. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually reached for 0.8 between now and 2022, honestly. It just doesn't look good, right? You had your bubble and it's just been down ever since. Straight down, no chaser. Here's what a pitchfork looks like, and a lot of people don't like the pitchfork. I'm a fan of the pitchfork. It gives me some perspective for a trend channel. So it's a trend channel with specific rules, 3 anchor points there, there, and there, and it projects a downward trend. In general, the median line is where you'd expect price to return to over time, several bounces. If the pitchfork is valid and real, if the trend is real, you will see price bounce in and around this pitchfork. It'll try to get out of it. It'll go back in, hit this median line. It didn't go lower, it didn't go higher. It went right back to the median line. So right now the median line's around 0.9. So if this fails to escape the gravitational pull of the median line, I expect it to go right back to 0.9. Looking at the cloud, it's also bearish. It's got this concavity, I think it is, where it looks like it wants to go to 0. Honestly, I try to be bullish. I try to look at this objectively, but any way I measure this doesn't look good. It's below the cloud. Cloud is bearish. Everything here is bearish. Looks much different than many of the other charts right now. Bitcoin, ETH, Link, Tezos. A lot of these charts are above their daily cloud. XRP has not quite got there yet. And then XRP BTC, man, we had this multi-month descending triangle below the 200, broke down below the consolidation VPVR level, and it looks like it wants to go to 800 to 1,000 sats, somewhere in here, somewhere in this level, maybe even rematch this low here before it turns the truck around. But this isn't a knife I'd want to catch, because much like Zcash, over time, when you see this just slow bleed, it just says that nobody wants to pick up this bag, and it's just bearish momentum to infinity and beyond. So, man, I don't know what the measured move of this descending triangle is because I didn't put it on the chart, but it's definitely down here somewhere. I don't think we go to 200 sats. It probably settles between 800 and 1,000. So 50% down from here. Doesn't look good. Doesn't look good no matter which way I slice it.